This is CBC Here and Now.
6 weeks is too long for us to continue the suspension of in-person learning. We cannot let fear guide our decisions.
Today, more hospitalizations and hundreds of new cases.
But K-12 schools will return to in-class instruction next week.
I didn't realize buying a home was such a gamble. I didn't realize it could ruin my life. I thought, worst case scenario, I outgrow it and rent it out.
She thought she finally made it. A new home, financial security.
But there was a big secret lurking beneath the walls, something no one, not even a home inspection, revealed.
Well, it was a rainy day in the east today. Tomorrow looks like snow, and we may see some more snow by the end of the weekend.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. We start tonight with schools. Students will return to the classroom next week.
It's a decision that politicians acknowledge won't please a lot of parents. Case counts and hospitalizations continue to be high, but public health and the provincial government say students need to be back in class, and they think it can be done safely.
The risk of severe disease for children is very low. A COVID-19 infection with Omicron generally presents with mild symptoms in children, even milder than in previous variants such as Delta. COVID is circulating in our communities, and we will see that reflected in schools. Our system can withstand a rise in cases among very low-risk age group. At this time, the benefits of being in school for children outweigh the risks of COVID-19. Again, I certainly appreciate that this may be worrisome for parents, but this is an important part of learning to live with COVID-19.
This was not a decision made lightly by Dr. Fitzgerald or her team. It is, however, the right decision for our children at this time. As we've seen across the country, over 97% of students are now in school.
So what do we need to know before teachers and students go back to class? Well, the first thing is rapid tests. There'll be a test on Saturday and Tuesday before going back to school. And when it comes to masks, the recommendation for masks is changing. They're now recommending medical surgical masks or a 3-layer cloth mask. If you don't have a 3-layer cloth mask, you can double up the regular cloth mask. Now, the school board is also planning for staff shortages from people being sick or having to isolate. It says there are 1,100 substitute teachers. Learning assistants can also be called on to fill in. And they've loosened rules to allow more retired teachers to come back to the classroom. There are also about 200 students getting their Bachelor of Education. They'll also be used in a pinch. The shortage of staff is one reason that students aren't being given the choice of continuing online learning. They're expected to be back in the classroom. The minister and health officials said hybrid learning didn't work.
Teachers weren't particularly fond of it, students weren't fond, parents weren't fond. The students that were at home were not getting the same attention as the students that were in class.
Very difficult to try to do both the in-person learning and then have a virtual component simultaneously. Very challenging. There are a finite number of teachers. We've allowed for the children to go back to school where they should be, and that is the learning mode right now. There's not enough staffing available to be able to do both.
Now, who has to isolate when someone tests positive is also changing. Public health now says if a student or teacher tests positive, the rest of the class won't be told and won't have to isolate, and as long as they don't have symptoms. This change will affect adults as well. If you're fully vaccinated and the positive case you had contact with was outside of your household, you can still go to work or school. Dr. Janice Fitzgerald says this is about living with the disease.
It's a fine line that we're walking, and it is a delicate balance, but we are trying to get there. This is really, I think, a transition period to living with endemic COVID. And so when COVID is just a part of our natural landscape of infectious diseases that we deal with all the time, like flu, like RSV, which is another respiratory illness that it's very common in children.
Now we have one other change to tell you about. This is for travelers coming into the province. As of midnight Friday, anyone arriving will still be given 5 rapid tests, but if you test negative twice, 24 hours apart, then you can leave isolation. Right now, you have to isolate for full 5 days. The Premier said this will be reviewed in 2 weeks with the goal of easing restrictions further.
Well, the back-to-school announcement was met with skepticism from the opposition parties. The PCs say the return to school should have been delayed another week and that there should be options for parents who don't want to send their kids back to in-person classes.
We're 2 years into the pandemic. This is not new ground for us. And we can't get this figured out, before now. It's sad. Actually, I spoke to a principal today and they said, yeah, it's challenging, but it's not impossible. So give live streams from classrooms. Why can't you have a live stream feed coming into a classroom for children at home and some children in the classroom? Ultimately, they're still getting instruction from the teacher. We can't get enough technology in place to do that. Do we have to make more investments? Maybe so. But I think that option should be there. And I don't think it's impossible at all. And 2 years in, we should be doing better than this.
Meanwhile, the NDP believes government failed to address important measures to protect children upon their return, measures like masks, ventilation, and cohorts.
I'll be honest with you, talk to any teacher and they'll tell you that that's a fiction in any physical sense of the word. Yet the absurdity of it is we have kids the children who will be bused to school, packed onto a bus, and then they'll have to go into their cohorts. At the end of the day, leave their cohorts, go back into a bus and be driven home. So somewhere along the line, I think in many ways that a simple measure like that would have indicated that they are indeed going to put all the resources into it.
And are you a parent with a child returning to school on Tuesday? If so, we'd like to hear from you. What questions or concerns do you have about the back-to-school plan? We'll be doing a feature interview with the Education Minister tomorrow. So if you have a question for him, send us an email at herenow.nl@cbc.ca, or on social media, you can send a tweet to Peter or to me. So get your questions to us and we'll do our best to get them answered.
Well, there are 2 more people in the province who have died as a result of COVID-19. We've also hit a new record for hospitalizations. Let's take a look at today's numbers. There are now 20 people in hospital due to COVID-19, and the province is sharing a new number today. We know there are an additional 40 people in hospital who have tested positive for COVID, but they're in hospital for other reasons. As I mentioned, 2 more people have died. Both are men over the age of 70, one in the Western Health Region, one in Eastern. That makes 30 COVID-related deaths since the pandemic began, 11 of those deaths in the last month alone. There are 360 new cases that were announced today.
Well, a St. John's woman has her fingers crossed, hoping the St. John's International Airport will continue normal operations until her flight leaves in less than 12 hours. Jolene Hanrahan needs to travel to the U.S. to receive treatment for a debilitating medical condition. After years of advocating for herself and navigating the pandemic, she's scheduled to be at Duke University in North Carolina in a few days. But as Mark Quinn reports, a labor dispute at the airport is causing her a great deal of anxiety.
Yeah, it's been a long road.
Jolene Hanrahan noticed the first signs of her serious health problems, a suspected spinal leak, about 4 years ago.
It started overnight. It just came on one day out of the blue. A severe headache that was brand new. I had never experienced it before. Along with the headache was just like blurry vision, a lot of pain in my neck and shoulders, just completely off balance, vertigo, nausea. So as this progressed, I found myself having to lie down for approximately 80% of my day.
Hanrahan can't get the treatment she needs in Canada, and she's endured a 2-year struggle to nail down an appointment with a specialist in the U.S.
We're just really eager to get answers and hopefully get help and, get back to work and get back to just get back to life.
On Tuesday, a labor dispute here grounded all flights with more than 20 passengers. Flights like Hanrahan's.
I couldn't believe it. I thought, we have worked so hard to get this appointment, and then we've had months of planning since we found out that we were approved. I couldn't believe that this might be the thing to derail it.
So tonight there is some good news. Hanrahan's flight is scheduled to leave on Friday, and today the airport says it will be operating normally until at least Saturday at 8 a.m. So barring any dramatic change at the airport, it appears Hanrahan's flight will leave as scheduled tomorrow morning. Live in St. John's, I'm Mark Quinn, thrilled to give you some good news, live for the Here and Now in St. John's.
Well, another day of mild temperatures for most of the island again today, above zero. Let's take a look at where we sat in the afternoon today. 7 degrees in St. John's. Those temperatures a bit cooler though as you head towards central and the west coast. But that cold really gripping Labrador today. Again, minus 23 was the afternoon high in Lab City. Now taking a look at what's going on, that Alberta Clipper's moving through. That's why we're seeing that rain on the eastern side of the low pressure system in that southerly flow. In behind that's where that cold air and that cold front is going to sweep through tonight, bringing some snow. But the good news is the snow isn't going to be accompanied by wind this time. We will see some gusty winds this evening, but then as we head through the overnight, those winds will die down a little bit and stay in between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour. Not such the case on Sunday, but I'll have the full forecast coming up.
Well, tonight on CBC Investigates, we have a story that real estate nightmares are made of.
Yes, last year, a St. John's woman purchased what she thought would be her forever home. And for a couple of months, things were great until a shocking revelation left Tiffany Elton in financial distress and questioning who protects the home buyer.
Here Now's Ariana Kelland has this report. But first, a quick note to say this story was shot before the recent COVID-19 restrictions.
It's small and quaint and everything small business owner Tiffany Elton wanted.
One here.
But as the St. John's woman has learned, not everything is as it seems from the outside.
For the first couple of months, I was very happy and thought I made it. Thought I was going to be okay, thought I had security and protection.
The MLS listing for 11 Summer Street caught Elton's eye during her search for a new home in the summer of 2020. Perfectly maintained and recently renovated, built in 1986, move-in ready.
The house looked great. I thought it was perfect. New floors, new tile, new cabinet, newly painted, and it was staged really well, and it said it was newly renovated. So I had no reason to not believe that it was true, and it looked perfect.
It was the rats that alerted Elton to the issue. It was the spring of 2021, and Elton went outside her house to find where the rodents were getting in. It didn't take long to spot the problem.
I quickly realized by lying on my stomach in front of the house, there was a hole the size of a garage door across the front foundation.
The home inspectors say there were no visible gaps underneath the front of her house at the time of the inspection, as the foundation was not accessible and could not be inspected. But it wasn't until pest control got into her attic to set traps that Elton got the biggest shock.
And he said, "You have a bigger problem than just rodents up here."
Charred, blackened wood all throughout the attic. A casing that once held a fluorescent light still hangs there, signaling that this wasn't always a house, and it wasn't originally built in 1986. Number 11 Summer Street was a double-car garage that had been in a fire and was converted into a home. Although people have been living here for decades, City Hall has no record of that work ever being done. A failure from the past that's carried forward to cause huge problems today. Now Tiffany Elton is left to clean up the mess in the ceiling and 3 out of 4 walls.
I didn't realize buying a home was such a gamble. I didn't realize it could ruin my life. I thought, worst case scenario, I outgrow it and rent it out.
Elton didn't skip a step in the home buying process. She trusted what was on the MLS listing and the property condition disclosure statement. That's including whether or not the property had an occupancy certificate. According to city records, there isn't one. That's despite the city issuing a compliance letter to Elton's lawyer. No one inspected the property after its conversion in 1986 because it was done with no permits issued and City Hall in the dark.
They did the conversion and the city, nobody ever came back to give it an occupancy permit, so it's technically not a home. It was a double-car garage that had a major fire.
So the question is, how can this happen? The home inspector didn't catch the burn because the previous owners wouldn't give access to the attic. The previous owners, who lived here for 10 years, tell CBC News that they did not know about the fire or that this building was actually a double garage. Elton wants accountability from the city.
They've been charging property taxes and allowing this home to be sold with no occupancy permit for years. So, in my opinion, they should be the ones to come forward and say, you know, we fooled up. This house isn't a house. It shouldn't have been sold. And here's how we intend to fix the situation. But they're not.
Elton has been back and forth with the city for 10 months and says she's lost thousands of dollars with inspections and legal fees. The city requested a new inspection at Elton's cost to survey the fire damage. When Elton shared the findings, including that the structure doesn't appear sound, the city slapped her with fines for unrelated issues discovered during the inspection. Without the money on hand, the city put a lien on her property to pay for a structural engineer. It confirmed what she thought. Without remediation, the house will be at structural risk.
I don't think I should have to default and file for bankruptcy, lose my business and lose everything because of the city's error and because the ball was dropped in this process.
Elton's claim for title insurance to cover the cost was denied, but she's hopeful a new letter from the city will help her pursue that option further. The City of St. John's declined to make anyone available for an interview, but in a statement called Elton's situation very unfortunate and said that compliance letters deal with zoning, assessments owed, and any outstanding permits. It does not deal with occupancy status or trigger an inspection of the property. But that's no comfort for Tiffany Elton. She says if she loses her home, she'll also lose a space which she uses to create jewelry and other products for her downtown business.
There are plenty of acts and codes and insurances to protect the banks and the realtors and the inspectors and other people in the process, but there's nothing to protect home buyers in the home buying process if something goes terribly wrong. And unfortunately, it happened to me, and it can happen to anybody.
Since this all began, Elton has been kicked off her home insurance. Her health has taken a decline, and legal advice she's been given suggests her only recourse may be spending tens of thousands of dollars to go to court. Despite it all, Elton says she's not backing down.
I don't want to lose everything because of the process being flawed and there being no recourse or protection for home buyers. I'm not going to lose my life over that.
Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
To share your thoughts on this story or any other tips you'd like to pass along, contact CBC's investigative team. The address is Atlantic iUnit at cbc.ca.
Well, if you've been asking for snow in the east, looks like tomorrow you'll be happy and potentially on Sunday. I'll have the full forecast when I come back.
Who would or could buy the St. John's Basilica? The Catholic Church was back in court today.
And it's not just its buildings on the line. That story ahead after Ashley's weather. Ashley is back with a look at the weather. And Ashley, I got out bright and early this morning for a hike, and what a great morning. It was nice to have a break from all of the wind.
Yes, because that's really been the story over the most of January, where we're seeing these windy conditions. So the temperatures that were a little bit below zero this morning didn't feel all that bad. Let's take a look at where we sat as the overnight lows, morning temperatures rather, around -4 in St. John's today, but those temperatures really chilly again up across Labrador. -28 this morning in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and -31 in Lab City. Now, the extreme cold warning has returned for Lab West through Churchill Falls and down through the valley, and we're going to see these wind chills overnight tonight, again dipping into the -47, -48 range for Lab West. Pretty similar to that, just a little bit less than that towards coastal areas of Labrador. And then temperatures and wind chills for the island are actually going to dip as well, especially on the west coast. Going to feel more like -15 by tomorrow morning. Temperatures though today for the east, as I showed you a little bit earlier, well above zero, around 7 degrees in St. John's today. So that means everything that fell as rain. You can start to see on the satellite and radar that transition, that rain snow line just edging in along that cold front down along southern areas of the island. And this rain will continue, and which will be heavy at times tonight, potentially for the east, but it will continue, and then eventually, as those temperatures drop, change back to snow, or change over to snow as that cold front moves through. So dipping down to about -7 in Gander tonight, -2 in Marystown, and hovering around the 0-degree mark for St. John's. Now the winds will be a bit breezy out of the southwest, 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, but again, that cold air still up across Labrador. Cartwright going down to -23 tonight. So just take a look at the future tracker. That transition through to snow should happen in the next couple of hours for central, and not really until the early morning hours for the east. Bonavista around midnight, still hanging out around 3 degrees. But then as we get towards 4 or 5 in the morning, those temperatures will start to drop, and then the precipitation should change over to snow, and then continue through most of the morning and afternoon for the east. Now, depending on exactly how quickly that snow moves out, we may see less amounts than forecasted, but at this point it is looking like we'll see somewhere close to 10 centimeters for the eastern areas of the island. The rest of the, or eastern areas of the Avalon rather, the rest of the island actually looking at a fairly nice day tomorrow, maybe a few showers. Rather a few peaks of sun in the mix, and as we get into Saturday, setting the stage once that snow ends to an actually beautiful Saturday, it looks like at this point. So there's your temperatures through the afternoon, hovering near or just below zero. Those winds will be out of the north, about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. A little bit of sunshine possible through central, but going to hang on to that chance of flurries for the west coast. Now, some areas could see 5, maybe a little bit more than that in the higher elevations, 5 to 10 centimeters. But overall, it looks like some sunshine for St. Anthony, but chilly, -17 through the day. And we're looking at those temperatures again into the -20s for Labrador, with plenty of sunshine through the day. So just a quick look at the snowfall forecast. This will be again through the day. Tomorrow, not a whole lot of wind associated with this one, but close to about 10 centimeters. Like I said, for the east, and otherwise 5 to close to 10 centimeters potentially, depending on how quick that snow moves through for the rest of the Avalon and eastern Newfoundland, and then dramatically drops off as you head towards central. So we're looking at about 2 to 5 centimeters through potentially Clarenville and Terra Nova. Now there is another system on the way, it looks like, for Sunday. This one could bring some significant snow as well, but I'll have those details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. The iconic St. John's Basilica and other historic church properties could be up for sale. An insolvency hearing was held at Supreme Court today for the Roman Catholic Episcopal Corporation of St. John's. This as the Archdiocese works to address liabilities related to historic sexual abuse cases at the Mount Cashel Orphanage. As Here Now's Ariana Kelland reports, it's not just churches that are on the line.
What started as a modest church fundraiser in 2017 took the capital city by storm. Tens of thousands of people cramming in and cashing out for a chance at millions. But the real winner was St. Kevin's Parish in the Ghouls. The total, a whopping $5.8 million, announced during Sunday morning Mass. Now the fate of that cash is under the microscope. A judge will soon decide whether that money should be divided among creditors in the insolvency case. The parish believes it should not. It's one of many issues currently before the court. In 2020, the Court of Appeal found the Catholic Church vicariously liable for abuse perpetrated by the Christian Brothers in the 1940s and 50s. The case centered on abuse suffered by 4 boys at Mount Cashel Orphanage. Last year, those men registered their judgment for a $2.4 million payout. Another 100 men are expected to seek more than $50 million. And last month, the corporation filed for creditor protection. It's not just a lottery on the line. A process is underway to formalize a sales strategy for land holdings in St. John's. 19 church properties, including the Basilica, are included on that initial list. The corporation is asking that properties like Corpus Christi be put up for tender, but the judge will have the final say. Today, the judge did move the process a step further by approving the sale of Mount St. Francis Monastery on Mary Meeting Road. The details of the sale of the historic property are sealed. Some of the big questions are who would or could buy a building like the Basilica, and what would a sale mean for parishioners. Court documents say they could still play a role, that parishioners would be logical buyers for those unique church properties, though it's expected there will be a mix of buyers for properties that go up for sale. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
Returning now to the ongoing dispute at St. John's International Airport, we just received word the union representing firefighters has reached an agreement with the airport authority. A statement from the union says this agreement means the airport will remain open while also addressing firefighters' concerns. It says a joint committee will be established to address other outstanding issues. The union says it's satisfied that the health of its members has been protected and now they can return to a safe working environment. Meanwhile, the airport authority says it's committed to working with the union to ensure this situation doesn't reoccur.
Well, that's welcome news for travelers. And as you heard earlier, our Mark Quinn spoke with one woman who's been waiting 2 years to travel to the United States for a medical appointment. After years of advocating to get the chance to see a doctor, her much-needed trip could have been grounded. Now it looks like it won't. Here's more of that conversation.
It's actually very debilitating. It started overnight. It just came on one day out of the blue. A severe headache that was brand new. I had never experienced it before. Along with the headache was just like blurry vision, a lot of pain in my neck and shoulders, just completely off balance, vertigo, nausea. And the key indicator about CSF leaks are that these headaches tend to be positional, which means they get worse the longer you're upright and they get better when you lie down. So as this progressed, I found myself having to lie down for approximately 80% of my day. It's been really challenging. I have 2 kids, it's been extremely challenging and made worse by the fact that I hate to say it, but it's not easy sometimes here within our healthcare. It's been an uphill battle to get the help that we need, and I've done a lot of advocating for myself, and I've done a lot of research, and I knew that Duke University was where I wanted to go. I also met a lady in the city who had gone to Duke. She had the same condition. She had gone to Duke, and she had gotten the support from her neurologist and from MCP, and she went and made a great recovery. So we have really high hopes for this appointment on Monday.
It sounds like you've been through a really tough time, and I'm sorry to hear you had so much trouble. But it does sound like there's some light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully. But then we find out about the airport. How did you find out about this trouble at the airport?
I was Tuesday evening. My dad, I had heard some, trickles of information that there was something happening at the airport. I knew that people were having trouble getting here, that flights were being canceled. And, it was on my mind, but really didn't, we weren't impacted. So I had just hoped for the best. And Tuesday evening, my dad sent me a link to an article that he had read saying that as of 8 o'clock Tuesday evening, all flights with with more than 19 seats, I think, wouldn't be landing in St. John's. And I mean, I couldn't believe it. I thought, we have worked so hard to get this appointment, and then we've had months of planning since we found out that we were approved. I couldn't believe that this might be the thing to derail it. So we were really nervous and very upset, and started to, well, at first we just said, we'll roll with it and see what the morning brings. And we were optimistic that it would get resolved quickly. But unfortunately, we had a very short window of time for it to get resolved before we left.
And when is your flight booked now?
My flight is for 5:20 tomorrow morning. And so we had a tense 24 hours. And last night we were really, really relieved to see the St. John's Airport announce that they would resume their normal activities until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So our flight's at 5:20, and we're just getting in under the gun, I guess.
Hopefully it works out. So what does it mean to you to get out and get to North Carolina for this appointment?
it means everything. My quality of life has been severely impacted by this. And, it's been a long, long road to get this appointment. So it really means everything. And as I said, I'm unable to work right now. If I think that, we would have been able to reschedule it, but I'm pretty sure it would have meant a delay by a couple of months. And we're just really eager to get answers and hopefully get help and, get back to work and get back to just get back to life.
As heartbreaking as it is to say, we need to acknowledge that there are some children living with violence, and school is their safe space.
Today, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald outlined many reasons why K-12 students will be returning to school on Tuesday. That's just ahead.
Absolutely heartbreaking tragedy. That's how Manitoba RCMP are describing the discovery of 4 bodies near the Canada-US border yesterday. Police believe the four, a man, a woman, an infant, and a teen boy, died of exposure in freezing weather while trying to walk across the border. And they aren't ruling out the possibility of human trafficking.
We're very concerned that this attempted crossing may have been facilitated in some way, and that these individuals, including an infant, were left on their own in the middle of a blizzard when the weather hovered around minus 35 degrees Celsius, factoring the wind. These victims faced not only the cold weather, but also endless fields, large snowdrifts, and complete darkness.
The search of the rural area was launched after U.S. officials said they had stopped a group that had crossed into the U.S. from Canada. One had items meant for an infant, but no infant was with the group. The red circle on the map shows where the bodies were found on the Canadian side, about 10 kilometers east of Emerson, and between 9 and 12 meters from the U.S. border.
Now back to our top story. Students and teachers will be heading back to the classroom next week. In-person classes are scheduled to resume this Tuesday, and today Dr. Janice Fitzgerald explained the reasons for that decision.
My most important message today is that we cannot let fear guide our decisions. We have always relied on evidence to guide the way, and it is through a careful review of the evidence that we have assessed the risks and benefits of returning to school. One of the most important lessons that emerged from this pandemic is how important school is for children, not just for their academic well-being, but also for their physical and emotional well-being. There are also a range of impacts for children being out of school. We are concerned for vulnerable children that rely on schools for specialized services and supports, as well as consistent access to food and physical activity. And as heartbreaking as it is to say, we need to acknowledge that there are some children living with violence, and school is their safe space. We are also concerned with the increased mental health impacts on children and youth, and the lack of routine, social isolation, and concerns about the pandemic in general fuel anxiety and depression. And there are also impacts for parents that are unable to work in order to be at home with their children. We have looked to experts in pediatrics, such as the Canadian Pediatric Society, and we found overwhelming evidence and support for schools to open for in-person learning within the current environment. One of the most common questions we have received around the timing of school opening and vaccinations. So over 93% of students aged 12 and older are fully vaccinated, and almost 75% of children aged 5 to 11 in our province have had their first dose of vaccine. This will provide a significant level of protection in these age groups. Today, we will start administering second doses to children who have reached the 8-week mark since their first dose. That's the 5 to 11 children. However, it will be about 6 more weeks before the majority of children in this age group can be fully vaccinated, taking into account the 14 days that it takes for the vaccine to become fully effective. 6 weeks is too long for us to continue the suspension of in-person learning. Studies from Canada and the United Kingdom show that the risk of severe disease for children is very low. A COVID-19 infection with Omicron generally presents with mild symptoms in children, even milder than in previous variants such as Delta. COVID is circulating in our communities, and we will see that reflected in schools. Our system can withstand a rise in cases among very low-risk age group. At this time, the benefits of being in school for children outweigh the risks of COVID-19.
Well, most of the other provinces in the country have also decided the benefits of in-person learning outweigh the health risks and have already sent students back to class. Dr. Fitzgerald ended her comments today on an emotional note, encouraging people to be unified during this wave of the pandemic.
Navigating COVID is a constant balance, and that has never been truer than right now. There is no perfect solution. And we need to remember that our goal is to reduce transmission where we can so that essential activities can continue. This responsibility lies with each and every one of us. You have put your trust in the public health team for the last 2 years and risen to the challenge of COVID again and again. When we put restrictions in place, you listened, and when we asked you to get vaccinated, you made us the most highly vaccinated place in Canada. And you have the power to get us through this too. So remember, individually, we are all each just one drop of water, but together, we are an ocean. And as we all know here in Newfoundland and Labrador, there's nothing more powerful than the ocean. So hold fast, hang in there, and take care.
Scientists have made an encouraging discovery off the coast of Tahiti, a pristine 3-kilometer-long reef of giant rose-shaped corals. It's deeper than normal, and experts think that might protect it from the bleaching effects of warming ocean waters.
An amazing new discovery, a coral reef system that basically is sitting at quite an impressive depth of between 30 to 70 meters, about 3 kilometers long in shape, in a very, very good condition. Generally coral reefs are found up to 25 meters in tropical systems, so it's quite impressive to find such system in a very good state of health. And if you look at the images, it's basically a field of huge flowers, coral garden in a way. Some of them looks like roses, some of them are 2 meters wide. I think what's important is it also raises the issue of how coral reefs become more resilient to climate change, because climate change is the main aspects that are impacting coral reefs. We also have pollution and overfishing, which comes on that. But certainly that gives us hope that there might be other ecosystems that we have not found in the ocean. What's really important is really having the capacity to understand how those systems work, how they interact with the different stresses, but also to map them, because that's where we have big knowledge gaps in the ocean. We only have about 20% of the ocean seafloor which has been mapped in high resolution. And of course we need to protect them. We have the science, but we need the science to take the action and to really conserve those ecosystems.
Beautiful. Well, from deep in the ocean to high in the sky, a British-Belgian teenager has scored a remarkable achievement. She is now the youngest woman to fly solo around the world.
It's just really crazy. I haven't quite processed it, I think. I mean, coming here, I was basically in tears, just trying to imagine what it'd be like to finally be home after 5 months. And even this flight wasn't easy, so I'm just super happy.
19-year-old Zara Rutherford is also the first person to make the 5-continent journey in an ultralight aircraft. She started the journey in August and landed in Belgium today after flying 51,000 kilometers over 52 countries. But one solo flight around the world isn't enough for her. She plans on doing the next one in space. Rutherford is going to study engineering in university with the goal of becoming an astronaut.
And worth pointing out there, her voyage did actually take her to Labrador. Goose Bay was one of the spots that she landed back in August when she was making the trek. Well, 2 years into the pandemic, people are finding more creative ways to enjoy the great outdoors. And that's where a new sport called ski skating comes in. The CBC's Liam Harrop headed out to give it a try.
Hello, I'm Liam from CBC Edmonton, and I am here to try out ski skating.
Snowfit is a short mini skis and it's super easy to wear with any winter boots. So you just take it off this clip and put it on. It's starting since last year. In Canada, we are the first ones renting this equipment. These are from Europe and are super awesome and easy to put it in your bag, and just you need your poles, Snowfit, winter boots, that's it. More easy impossible. Sometimes we are using here in this park and people stop us and they try immediately.
We actually have taken them to Rabbit Hill and we actually hit the terrain park. We hit the jumps, we hit a couple boxes. There's a few people right now that are pretty crazy on these and do like backflips, all that stuff. Now everyone, it's like skis and snowboards. I feel like it's going to be skis, snowboards, and snow feet.
This weather update is brought to you by the NL 511 app. Know before you go. Check road conditions, highway cameras, and the provincial plow tracker with the NL 511 app.
Ashley is back with the long-range forecast, and we get to look ahead to the weekend. Tomorrow, some snow on the way here in the east. How's the weekend looking?
Well, the good news is it looks like instead of it melting right away, we can actually enjoy a little bit of that snow on Saturday in the eastern areas of the island. Let's take a look at what's going to happen. That snow should end fairly quickly Friday evening and then clear out for the most part. Some flurries may continue for the west coast, but the first half of Saturday actually looking beautiful with sunshine. However, we will see those clouds on the increase into the evening hours. Now, temperatures will be chilly. -7 for St. John's, minus single digits really right across the island, except along the strait where you'll see those temperatures dipping into the minus teens. And those temperatures moderating a little bit from what we've seen. So a little bit of a warm up across Labrador, but we are still looking at that sunshine through the day on Saturday. And then the next system will move in, that cloud cover moving in ahead of it. But by Saturday or Sunday morning rather, it does look like an area of low pressure will pass just to the south of Newfoundland. And that means that most of eastern areas could see some snow. And with this one, looks like some windy conditions as well. Now, amounts still a little bit uncertain. Got to figure that one out. So I'll definitely have some more detail on that tomorrow. But it does look like some potentially significant snowfall is possible through the day on Sunday. It will move fairly quickly though. Once the afternoon rolls around, we should start to actually see that snow ending. And it should end for sure by, or altogether by the evening hours on Sunday. But the temperatures will be in and around the 0 degree mark, kept it windy for the Avalon, and then temperatures will be significant or a little bit cooler as you head towards central and the west coast. -2 for Gander, -5 for Corner Brook, and it'll be more in the way of flurries the further west you get. And again, it will completely depend on the track. Another relatively mild day than it has been up across Labrador into the minus teens again, -16 in Nain as your afternoon high on Sunday. Now, Monday is going to stay below 0, but there is a chance overnight Monday into Tuesday that we could see some rain again, but that temperature will drop fairly quickly on Tuesday, but the windy conditions will return again. Same thing for central Newfoundland, except the snow will move in late day Monday, and then western Newfoundland looking at the flurries right through Tuesday. For eastern Labrador, some flurries Monday, clearing out again on Tuesday, and looking at those temperatures in the -20s for western Labrador. I wanted to share this photo. Back Cove, leading tickles. Roger shared that one with us. If you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Another beauty. Okay, so Peter, you're going to be speaking with the Education Minister tomorrow, so just a reminder to folks, if anyone out there has a question for the Education Minister, you can always send you a tweet or email us.
Yeah, hereandnow.nl@cbc.ca. I'll be picking through them and picking a few of them to be able to ask for Tom Osborne. I know lots of parents, and I want to hear from students as well. So if students have questions, things they're trying to figure out before they go back on Tuesday, send it along.
Excellent. Well, that's it for us tonight. Hope you can join us again tomorrow. Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.